Hey guys, my name's Nick and welcome back to the channel. And in this video I'm going to be discussing the differences and changes that have happened since the launch of the Chaos Codex Daemons that's come out this weekend, and how that's differing from the Index rules and the Codex Chaos Marines rules, where the horrors and so on were updated and put into. So what I want to do is run through the key changes, and there are quite a few interesting little changes between the new Demonic Codex and the old Index. So I'm going to run through those changes. Not going to focus on Nurgle or Khorne or Slaanesh or anything like that. It's purely Tzeentch Demon changes, as that's the army that I have been playing for a little while in 8th edition. And yes, a few interesting changes really. So this is an informal chat, just going through the key changes that I've identified so far. So let's crack straight into the video. So throughout this video I am obviously going to be looking at the Codex itself, plus some notes that I've made. So I'm not going to be maintaining 100% eye contact with the camera as we go through some of these changes. Yeah, forgive me for not doing that, but obviously I need to read the notes and stuff that I've made. So the first thing we're going to start off with then is the Demonic Loci. This is now specific if your entire army is battle forged. All characters in Chaos Demons detachments gain the Demonic Locus. Now for Tzeentch, that's the Locus of Trickery. So what you're going to do here is roll 2 dice at the start of each fight phase, discard the highest result, and until the end of that phase, each time your opponent targets a Tzeentch Demon unit within 6 inches of that model with the Locus of Trickery and makes a hit roll, and after re-rolls but before modifiers matches that remaining dice result, that result fails. So your 1 in 6 chance, so if you've got a weapon skill of say 3+ and you're trying to hit me and I've rolled that 3, if I rolled a 3 or 4 for example, I discard the 4, keep the 3, you now can't hit me on that 3, you can only hit me now on a higher value. Obviously if that's quite a low roll, like a 1 or a 2 or whatever, and your weapon skill is higher than that, then it's not going to make much difference. But it's a nice little bonus if you get some good high numbers. So if you roll a 5 or a 6 or double 6 or double 5, you're eliminating quite a large percentage of that hit roll. And quite a few of the characters, if you've got quite a few of what used to be Heralds, and I'll cover the name changes shortly, you can actually reduce the inbound damage to your army, so that's quite a good one to have. We also gain Demonic Legions. Now this is the old any troops, if they are troops, they now can take an objective without worrying about the model count. So every army is now getting that. This is just called Demonic Legions, so there's nothing fancy about that. Just means that your model troop count just needs to be higher than the enemy model troop count really to claim an objective. So nothing big on that one. Quite a few interesting stratagems. What are some of the key ones that we're picking out here? Locus of Conjuration. So use this stratagem at the start of your psychic phase. It costs you 2 points. Select a Tzeentch Demon character from your army. Until the end of that phase you can reroll any failed psychic tests for friendly demon units within 6. So that's not just him. That's anything around a demonic character, a Tzeentch character. Bit expensive at two command points, but could be quite useful, although psychic powers I'm still a bit iffy about, but good for smite. Now Tzeentch smite is very powerful, so that's one of the big things that could be quite good, and you can generate a lot of command points with a demonic army. Next one is Magical Boon. This is only 1 command point. At the end of your psychic phase, select a Tzeentch Demon Psyker from your army. It can immediately attempt to manifest 1 additional psychic power. Pretty good. Stacking psychic powers is what Tzeentch is all about, so it's good to see a stratagem in here that boosts the psychic abilities of a Tzeentch Demon army. We also have Blasted Standard for another command point. Use this stratagem before the battle. Choose one of your Tzeentch Demon models with a demonic icon. Icons normally cost you some points though. That icon is upgraded to a Blasted Standard. In addition to its normal ability, the power of the banner can be used once per battle. At the beginning of any psychic phase, when used, roll 9 dice. For each roll of a 6, the closest visible enemy suffers a mortal wound. That sounds quite epic to me. 9 dice, you're going to get at least 2 6s on that. potentially 3 on a good roll. Obviously you can command point re-roll some of this as well, so you can kick out a few mortal wounds with your powers, so quite like that as well. There are some generic Chaos Demon stratagems as well, and there are certainly some good ones to have a look at in here. So these can be taken by any Chaos Demon army, so whatever faction they're going to be. So for Tzeentch or for Nurgle or whoever. So there's some good ones in here. So there's a Chaos Demon stratagem for Denizens in the Warp, where for 1 command point you can set up any of your demon units with a power level of 8 or less in the Warp and basically deep strike them 9 inches away from an enemy. That's pretty good. Something that I might consider for Pink Horrors, which we'll discuss later. You can actually spend 2 command points and you can increase that to a power rating of 9 or more. So you can actually bring down some big critters by spending some extra command points. Demonic Incursion, this is a good one if you're playing Grey Knights. So I do have a friend who does play Grey Knights. Basically you can use 2 command points if that unit is destroyed by a Grey Knight unit. The unit can be fully returned for no additional points in your match play list. So you can bring a whole unit back for free, for 2 command points. We also have Soul Sacrifice, another 2 command point power. So before an enemy chaos character from your army attempts to summon a unit of demons to the battlefield, the character will suffer D3 mortal wounds automatically, but you can roll 4 dice rather than 3. So again, you can start to look to bring in some more powerful characters from that demonic ritual. Rewards of Chaos, very similar to every other codex I've read so far. So for an extra 1 or 3 command points, you can take extra Hellforged items. I've not so far seen really good purposes for that yet, but it is appearing in all codexes under different guises of name. We also have Demonic Pact. This is another good one. After a Chaos character from your army summons a unit of demons to the battlefield, for 1 command point it can immediately attempt to bring in another unit. So you could really deny an enemy area of effect if you could bring in some large blobs of demons and start double dropping, as it were. Demonic Possession, use this stratagem when an enemy psyker suffers the perils of the warp. Instead of D3 damage or D3 mortal wounds, 1 command point can force him to suffer 2d3. Could be a really good character killer. And finally, we have Warp Surge. So use this stratagem at the start of any phase. Select a unit of demons until the end of that phase. You cannot re-roll saving throws for this unit, but its invulnerable save is improved by 1. This could be very, very good for your horror units, and horror units have changed, and we'll get to those in a bit. This is 2 command points, but units in demon armies are normally so pretty cheap, you can actually generate quite a lot of command points. So something to look out for. Don't be afraid of 2 command point powers for that, but it does only last until the end of that phase, so it's a lot more limited, but could be very, very beneficial. Moving on then, let's talk about Warlord Traits. So as with all other codexes and everyone else, we get 6 Warlord Traits. The first one is Born of Sorcery. Add 1 to the result of your first psychic test made for your Warlord in each psychic phase. So that's pretty good. You're going to get powers off a lot less. And if you're running sort of Kairos or the Lord of Change, they've already got bonuses in their profile. So you're adding 1 more for that. You're going to get some of the higher powers off. Incorporeal Form, so reduce all damage inflicted to your Warlord by 1. So if a weapon inflicts 3 damage, you're only going to take 2 damage now. So that keeps these high wound, easy targeted units a little bit more survivable, especially if they're being hit by high damage weapons. Warp Tether is number 3. You can re-roll failed morale tests for friendly Tzeentch Daemons within 9 of the Warlord. That's not bad. Lawkeeper of Tzeentch is the 4th one. Add 6 to the range of your first psychic power manifested by your Warlord in each psychic phase. That's quite good, and we'll cover that when we get onto the psychic powers. Tyrant of the Warp, roll a dice each time your Warlord suffers perils of the Warp. On a 2-up, your Warlord's psychic mastery is such they do not suffer perils. That is something I want to see for Magnus in the Thousand Suns Codex big time. He is such a beast, and dying from his own psychic powers when he is the best psyker in the game. Maybe Eldrad, but Magnus is the best psyker in the game. being able to ignore that on a very good roll is something I think I discussed when I did my in-depth on Magnus. Something to really shield him from the crap of perils. Finally, Demon Spark then. Reroll wound rolls of a 1 in the shooting phase for friendly Tzeentch Demon units within 9 of the Warlord. Another interesting one, but for me so far Tyrant of the Warp is looking pretty strong. But Demon Spark, pretty good. If you're going to try and run a Tzeentch Demon shooty list with lots of flamers and so on, that could be quite a good one to take. Just depends on your list building. Have some Hellforged artifacts, so all armies can take 1 for free, and then you've got bonuses, and you can spend command points to take a bonus one. There are some specific ones in here for Tzeentch. So we have the Everstave, which is a model with a Rod of Sorcery or Staff of Change only. So we are talking sort of Kairos and the Lord of Change, really. Add 1 to the bearer's psychic test when attempting to manifest Smite. That's pretty cool. Smite at the moment is a 5+, and is a very powerful ability to kick out mortal wounds, as we all well know. And with Smite changes that are potentially coming in where incremental Smite is going to cost you 1 extra warp charge, this could be quite good to sort of counter that, to get more Smite attacks off. We also have the Impossible Robe, which is Tzeentch models only. The wearer of the Impossible Robe has a 4+ invuln save. In addition, once per game, you can re-roll a single saving throw for that wearer, so a failed one. But if you get a 1, the wearer is immediately slain. That is bloody dangerous. If you've got a 16 wound character leading your Tzeentch Demons, and you give it a 4+ invulnerable save, and you roll a 1, that's pretty dirty. What else we have? Soulbane. Tzeentch Herald only. Soulbane replaces the bearer's Ritual Dagger and gives it basically an AP of -5 instead of AP -1. So pretty dangerous. They don't tend to have many attacks, but when they do hit at that attack, they are going to be shredding your armour completely, and you're going to be relying on whatever other save that you may have on that model, typically the invulnerable save. So some interesting Hellforged artifacts, which is something we didn't get in the index, so always good. Let's talk psychic powers then. Now, in the index, we only used to have 3 powers. So we have new powers, and these are the Gaze of Fate, which has a warp charge of 6, which allows you to re-roll a single dice later in that turn. Now, that does specifically mention turn, so that does mean your shooting phase, your charge-in phase, and your combat phase. So you get to re-roll one of those dice just by getting this power off. We have Flickering Flames, which is a warp charge of 5. Friendly demon units, or Tzeentch demon units, add 1 to the wound rolls made for that model's shooting weapons only. Then finally we have Infernal Gateway. Now that's a warp charge of 8, which is pretty high, but it's quite good. Nearest enemy visible models within 12 inches of that model, of that casting model, that unit and every unit, friend or foe, within 3 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds. But if you cast that on a 12 or more, that goes up to D6 mortal wounds. Now some of these characters and some of these stratagems and so on give bonuses to that. So for example, a Lord of Change adds 2, until it's degraded, it adds 2 to his cast. So he's now casting this on a 6. If you take that Warlord trait of +1, he's now getting this off on a 5. That is a very offensive power to use. Just keeping away your friendly units, because it does affect friendly units as well. But if people are castling up and they've got a big blob of stuff all in the same place, this could be really effective. And also note that it does say units, so that does mean that you can target vehicles with this. The old powers have still got the same names, so you still have the Boon of Change, the Bolt of Change, and the Treason of Tzeentch. The Bolt of Change does cost 1 point less. It used to cost 9, it now costs 8. So a little bit cheaper to get off. So those are the now new psychic powers for Tzeentch Daemons. So some interesting combinations that I can already formulate in my mind as I'm sort of articulating this this conversation and this chat here. So let's move into the HQs then. So we have the Lord of Change. Now the Lord of Change has no stat line changes at all. It does maintain all its old stat lines. So it's a big 16 wound model, which means it can be targeted, but now has access to the new powers. One thing it does do is it costs 20 points less. It used to cost 340, and you could take the Staff of Change for 10 points, which is the extra range on your smite. Basically, it's a smite stick. That still costs the same, but your base model now only costs 320. Other than that, nothing else has changed with him. Kairos Fate Weaver used to cost 400 points. He now only costs 370, so he's dropped by 30 points. He's also dropped by 1 power level. He used to be power level 20, he's now only power level 19. So it's a good thing there for when you're playing match play, and also a good thing if you're playing narrative play, because you're now getting that extra point back in your pool, making them a little bit cheaper to use. Another unit that's not really had a change, in fact it's had 0 change whatsoever, is the Blue Scribes. Still 100 points, it still can absorb enemy psychic powers and then use them back on the enemy. Other than that, 0 stat line changes, no points changes, no power level changes, exactly as he was. And the other character that we had with the same name before was the Changeling. Now the Changeling was Tzeentch Daemons' best friend. He has now changed, literally. The Changeling has changed. So other than, his stat line hasn't changed, his power level hasn't changed, but what has changed is the Locus of Transmogrification. Now this used to be the power where all friendly Tzeentch Demon units within 9 inches of him, which is quite a big bubble, all enemies shooting and melee were at -1 to hit. This was huge. This has now gone. This unit used to be an auto-include in Tzeentch Demon lists, full stop. Run him around next to your big Tzeentch Demon characters, make them -1 to hit, very survivable characters then. Now that is gone. That's been replaced with a roll a d6 for any Tzeentch Demon units within 9 inches of him, so it's still the same bubble, but if that unit loses a wound, roll a 6 on your d6 and it ignores the wound. So it's a 1 in 6 chance of stopping wounds getting through. Nowhere near as effective as a -1 to hit. Very disappointing to see that, but I'm sure a lot of anti-Tzeentch Demon players are probably quite happy to see it. So the other 3 characters then that we have, 3 HQ choices, were the old Heralds. Now the Herald of Tzeentch used to be on foot, on disc or on chariot. They've now got new names. So the one on foot is now just called the Changecaster. Other than that, other than name change, 0 points change, 0 power level change, nothing else has changed other than his name. The one on the Chariot is now called a Fate Skimmer. He is now an extra power level in cost and an extra 20 points in cost. Other than that, no other change. And finally, the one on a disc, the old Herald on disc, is now called a Flux Master. And other than the name change, again, no points change, no power level change, no abilities change, no nothing. So the 3 Heralds have all got fancy new names. That's the long and the short of it. Next big change then is Horrors. Now Horrors were a big thing for Demons armies, especially Brimstone Horrors. Used to be 2 points with a 4-up invulnerable save. They then got debuffed, nerfed, whatever you want to call them, to cost 3 points. Now they've been hit with the nerf hammer again, and we have a change to the Horrors with their invulnerable save. Pinks are the only ones that get a 4-up invulnerable save. Blues now get a 5. Brimstones are now relegated to a 6+ invulnerable save. But they still maintain the old points cost of 7 points for a pink, 5 for a blue, and 3 for a brimstone. So brimstones have been hit with that nerf hammer. The other change then that we need to worry about is they are 1 power level less. They are a little bit cheaper to take. Points wise they're not so cheap, but power level they are a bit cheaper. And the other thing to note now is pink Horrors have gained a little bit of a bonus. If you take 20, or you've got 20 remaining in a unit, they gain an Assault 3 to their profile of their shooting weapon instead of Assault 2. So trying to encourage you there to take pinks over than anything else. They've now got a better shooting weapon if you take big blobs, which probably makes them quite good for doing a demonic summoning, demonic ritual with them to really bring them in close to the enemy and swamp them with loads and loads of assault weapon shooting. Let's move into the 2 Flamer units then. So we have Flamers of Tzeentch. 0 change whatsoever. Nothing has changed. They still fly around with their little pink pistol fists, pistol D6, still kicking out those guns. But other than that, points change, power level change, stat line change, all exactly the same. Let's talk about the Exalted Flamer. Exalted Flamers, very, very good units. They have now gone up by 20 points. They were 70, they are now 90. However, what you're getting for that 20 points now is a fixed weapon stat for your pink flames So these were the sort of mini las cannons, right? So they were strength 9, AP -4, and caused D3 damage, and they were heavy D3 shots. They are now fixed at heavy 3. So no more rolling the random dice to see how many shots you get. You've now got a fixed number for that, and for 20 points more. That's the key here. Other than that, all the stat lines remain exactly the same. They have changed the weapon stat to be strength user plus strength +4. So the strength is 5 +4, still gives you the strength 9. That was the old stat line. It makes no physical difference to the way that those weapons work. Next unit that I am quite happy to see has been buffed, and that is the Screamers. So these little flamey dudes fly across really quick, and they used to have 2 weapon profiles, or 2 combat profiles, and that was the Lamprey Bite and the Slashing Talons. Slashing Talons were rubbish, and you got 1 Lamprey Bite, which was a strength 6 AP -2 2 damage weapon in melee. You've now replaced all of your profile attacks with just that 1 Lamprey Bite. So you've now got 3 attacks using that single profile instead of the old 1 attack with that and 2 with the shit profile. So that is really good. Other than that, stat lines have not changed. Still really quick. It's still a movement of 14. They're still pretty good. One of the other key changes though is that the slashing attack has changed. It used to be that if you moved and advanced over an enemy unit, on a 6 for each model in your unit, you caused a mortal wound. Now that's just done in the movement phase, so you can move and you don't have to advance. So that's quite good because you can now assault other units, whereas before, if you moved and advanced, you couldn't assault. So you can now move over a unit, cause a load of damage, you can now charge them. How cool is that? And for that, no points changes. That is really good. The final unit then is the Burning Chariot. Now this is basically the Exalted Flamer on a Chariot. So the Chariot attacks, let's cover those first. That is now the Lamprey Bite from the Screamers that are pulling it along. So that's been buffed as well. And also, because we've just discussed the pink flames before with the Flamer, it's now fixed at a heavy 3 shot rather than the heavy D3 that it used to have. For that, you are paying an extra 22 points. It's gone from 98 to 120. So you're getting better attacks from your from the melee part, and you're getting better shots from your range guns. So a little bit more points, but now very valid shooting weapons. So that's going to wrap the video up. Really, that's covered all the key changes that I've found in the Tzeentch Demon Codex. Now that we've got it, as I said, not covering all the other god allegiances. Some very positive changes, a couple of weird negative ones. I'm still not convinced by Kairos or the Lord of Change. I think Herald spam is what you're going to see, and certainly lots and lots more Exalted Flamers. Those are really good. As I said, Kairos and Lord of Change, very supportive units now. What you're going to be looking for is to get those high cast powers off using all the buffs to those units, but I'm still not convinced that they are now really worth it, even with their points changes. I'm not convinced. But if you've got any comments on this, if you think I'm missing a trick here, feel free to leave a comment in the comments field below, and let me know if I'm missing anything. But from what I've seen so far, the Changeling is now not quite sure what the Changeling is. He's changed. Whether he's changed for the better, definitely not. Will we not see him anymore on the battlefield? Maybe. But really happy with the Screamers. I've got a lot of Screamers. I'm going to finish painting my Screamer army up, and then try and run loads of Heralds with him. So I can't call them Heralds anymore. They've got new names. Yeah, maybe run a really fast army supported by all those shooting units, really get in the enemy's face, and maybe consider now, dropping in those pink horrors, as Brimstones look to be a thing of the past, which might please quite a lot of competitive tournament players that don't play Tzeentch. So there we go, that's going to wrap the video up. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned something new. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel, and I shall catch you guys on the next video.